Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 16, entitled How Parikshit Received the Age of Kali, text number 16. Saratya Parashada Sevana Sakya Dautya Veerasanaanugamanastavana Pranaman Snigdeshu Pandushu Jagat Pranatim Cha Vishnu Bhaktim Karoti Nripatis Charanara Vinde. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Maharaj Parikshit heard that out of his causeless mercy, Lord Krishna, Vishnu, who is universally obeyed, rendered all kinds of service to the malleable sons of Pandu by accepting posts ranging from chariot driver to president to messenger, friend, night watchman, etc., according to the will of the Pandavas, obeying them like a servant and offering obeisances like one younger in years. When he heard this, Maharaja Parikshit became overwhelmed with devotion to the lotus feet of the Lord. Purport. Lord Krishna is everything to the unalloyed devotees like the Pandavas. The Lord was for them the Supreme Lord, the spiritual master, the worshipable deity, the guide, the chariot driver, the friend, the servant, the messenger, and everything they could conceive of. And thus, the Lord also reciprocated the feelings of the Pandavas. Maharaja Parikshit, as a pure devotee of the Lord, could appreciate the Lord's transcendental reciprocation of the feelings of his devotees, and thus he himself also was overwhelmed with the dealings of the Lord. Simply by appreciating the dealings of the Lord with his pure devotees, one can attain salvation. The Lord's dealings with his devotees appear to be ordinary human dealings, but one who knows them in truth becomes at once eligible to go back home, back to Godhead. The Pandavas were so malleable to the will of the Lord that they could sacrifice any amount of energy for the service of the Lord, and by such unalloyed determination they could secure the Lord's mercy in any shape they desired. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So this is the chapter we are reading about how Parikshit Maharaj could see the advent of Kali Yuga, and he could see different Kali Yuga symptoms getting manifested in his kingdom. And so while he started observing all these omens, he also happened to hear about the different reciprocations between the Lord and his forefathers, especially the sons of Pandu, the Pandavas. Arjuna was his grandfather, and all the other Pandavas were his maternal uncles. So when Parikshit Maharaj heard about the reciprocations between the Lord and his forefathers, he became overwhelmed with devotion. So why did he become overwhelmed with devotion? Because it is explained that Krishna, in this verse specifically, that Krishna, he just did not take the role of an instructor. So he did not just take the role of a spiritual guide or a mentor, he was also a friend. And he was also serving them. He became the chariot driver. He also accepted the post of the head of the Ajasuya sacrifice, but he was also a messenger. So he was also a chariot driver for Arjuna. So the Lord, he has taken all the posts ranging from this end of the spectrum to that end of the spectrum. So that is possible only for the Lord. So the Bhagavatam and different Vedic literatures explain this is the beauty of reciprocation between the Lord and his devotees. This is not possible anywhere else. First of all, our Krishna consciousness movement is very special because, as Rupa Goswami explains, we get to interact with the Lord in different forms, in different rasas. So the nectar of devotion explains that there are 5 primary rasas: Shanta rasa, Dasya rasa, Sakhya rasa, Vatsalya rasa, and Madhurya rasa. So the devotee can relate with the Lord in any of these rasas, and everything is absolutely sweet. So the Lord will reciprocate according to the devotees' surrender, devotees' feelings, devotees' exhibition of love. So this is a beautiful example of how Krishna conducted himself in different poses. And also when we read Vedic literatures, Bhagavata and different stories that are narrated by Prabhupada and the previous Acharyas, we get to see how Lord has always been reciprocating in various forms with his pure devotees. So take the example of Sakshi Gopal. So how Lord walked to give Sakshi, proof. So take the example of Kirchor Gopinath. So how Lord stole the pot of sweet rice for his pure devotee Madhavendra Puri. So take the example of Udupi Krishna. So the deity turning across to give darshan for his dear devotee Kanakadasa. So there are hundreds and thousands of examples. So if you see different pastimes of Jagannath, so how he has always been reciprocating with his devotees. So many hundreds of pastimes are there with Jagannath. So you take the example of Alarnath, how he accepted the offering of a small boy and without consideration of that sweet rice being hot, etc. And if you go to Vrindavan, there are thousands and thousands of pastimes. How Madan Mohan has interacted with devotees, his pure devotees, Sanatan Goswami. So how Govinda has been reciprocating with Rupa Goswami. So how Damodara has been reciprocating with Jiva Goswami. So all of these wonderful reciprocations of the Lord is an indication that we also can experience the very same reciprocation provided we qualify for that. So and also even in the Krishna Leela, if you see, Krishna showed this sweetness of reciprocation with his pure devotees. So where you can see in the Bhagavatam explained how Krishna was playing with his Gopa friends, and when he lost in the competition, he had to carry some of his friends. So the Supreme Lord, so he is described as Akhilanda Koti Brahmanda Nayaka, so where millions of universes are emanating from him, he is holding everything on his will, and that Supreme Lord is carrying his friends on his shoulder. So where will you see this kind of a reciprocation from the master? In this material world, master will always try to dominate the servant, and servant is always dominated, and therefore servant is also not loyal or obedient to the master. So that's why when we hear the word Krishna is the supreme master and we are all eternal servants of the Lord, it is not so pleasing. Alright, so I am only a servant, is it? So I am always serving Krishna and Krishna is always the master. So we are not excited by this concept of a master and a servant relationship. That is because of our idea from this material world that the servant is always exploited and master always enjoys. So that conception being very vivid in our mental conception, so we are not able to accept and appreciate the beauty of Krishna being the master and devotees being his servants. So here servant will never get that rightful reciprocation from the master. But in the spiritual world it is not like that. So the more than the servant wanting to serve the master, Krishna is also becoming the servant of the servant. So Krishna is ready to serve his pure devotees. So that's the proof that Krishna became the chariot driver of Arjuna. It was not necessary. So but Krishna wants that. And if you see also the Krishna Leela, you can also see Krishna carrying the sandals of his father Nanda Maharaj on being ordered. So where can you see the master carrying the sandals of his pure devotees, his servants? So that is only possible in the Lord. And if you also see how the different Vrajavasis were appreciating the very special position of Yashoda Maya and Nanda Maharaj. So this month, whole month, Kartika month, we are celebrating the Kartika month, and the Damodara Leela happened. We all have heard of that Leela. So in this Damodara Leela, so as we know, when Yashoda Maya wanted to attend to the milk that was overflowing, actually Yashoda Maya was feeding Krishna, and suddenly she realized that milk which was kept on the oven was overflowing. So she discontinued the process of feeding Krishna and she went to attend to that overflowing milk. So Krishna got angry, he broke few milk pots and he went into the room where butter and yogurt, all that were stored. So then he ate and he also started feeding the monkeys and all that, kind of a so-called mess was created. So when Yashoda Mai came back and she couldn't find Krishna, and she also saw the milk pots being broken, she understood that it is the work of naughty Krishna, and she started looking for Krishna. And when she could find Krishna out of fear of Yashoda Mai started running, and Yashoda Mai started chasing Krishna. So this particular Leela of Krishna running out of the fear, it is explained by the great sages that Krishna was very afraid of the stick in the hands of Mother Yashoda. So they explain that the bhayam, the fear, if you can personify that fear, the fear personified is fearful of Krishna. That is the meaning of Krishna. So the fear personified is afraid of Krishna, and that Krishna is afraid of Yashoda Mai's stick. So he is running out of fear and Yashoda Mai is chasing him. So this wonderful pastime can only be witnessed between the Lord and his pure devotees. So that's the beauty of Krishna's reciprocation with his devotees. And finally, when Yashoda was getting tired of chasing Krishna, trying to capture him, Krishna decides, now let me not give more trouble to my mother. He agrees to be caught. He agrees to be captured by Mother Yashoda. And then when Mother Yashoda tries to bind him, we all know how the rope fell short by 2 inches. And then Mother Yashoda gathered more ropes. Every time she gathered more ropes and joined, but still it was falling short. Then finally Krishna on his own accord agrees to be bound by the love of Mother Yashoda. So not by the rope. So it is only by the love of Mother Yashoda he agrees to be bound. So this kind of a loving reciprocation is possible when we surrender unto the Lord. So now one may question, Prabhu, all this Krishna's reciprocation, the pastimes that we said, Mother Yashoda capturing Krishna, or Madhavendra Puri's Kirchor Gopinath Leela, or Sakshi Gopal Leela, or Alarnath pastime, or Jagannath Leela, anything of this, whatever are there, wonderful reciprocations, this is all what we see is pure devotees are involved. So now how do I appreciate this? So how is Lord reciprocating with us in our lives? So we generally think like that, no, this is only for elevated devotees, exalted devotees, not for practicing sadhakas like us. But then Krishna has done the greatest reciprocation in each one of our lives. Do you all agree? We taking up devotional service and we sitting here to hear Bhagavatam is itself the greatest reciprocation of the Lord. Because while we speak here, there are so many channels, opportunities, avenues for engaging in sense gratification. Isn't it? So there are hundreds and thousands of means. So but then a group of us have assembled here to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, to worship the deities, to worship the Guru, to have prasadam. This itself is the greatest wonder. So the Lord is already reciprocating with us. So it is not that Lord has to do some leela, appear in front of us or give us something. No. So the Lord, having facilitated our devotional service, we coming to this temple and taking part in different forms of devotional service is itself a biggest wonderful reciprocation from the Lord. Because there could be some exceptions to this rule, but I would say I can generalize very confidently by saying that most of us were not necessarily born in the family of great devotees who were chanting right from their childhood or something, and we were born into such families and we were taught the science of devotional service. We were taught Srimad Bhagavatam right from when we were we were children. Okay, and then we understood the science of chanting, right from when we were young. No, not necessarily. So it has all happened, and if we introspect our own lives in the past, so there was no such hint that we could take up devotional service at all. So if people and if we have become devotees, that itself is the greatest reciprocation from the Lord. And in fact, if some of you want more clarification, so there is one pastime of Prabhupada which he explains in his own words. It so happened that at one assembly of devotees, so Prabhupada was hearing of some issues, some complaints of some devotees becoming proud, some devotees becoming arrogant, some devotees feeling themselves as doers and all that. So at that time Prabhupada narrates this interesting analogy. He asks that group of devotees who had assembled there, he asked them a question. When you are walking on a street, when you find a stick, do you consider that as something valuable or worthy? He asked this question to the group of devotees. When you are passing on the street, walking on the street, if you find a small stick that is lying on the ground, will you find that valuable or worthy? So then the devotees said, "No, Prabhupada." So then Prabhupada continued. He asked another question. So further you continue, and then you see a piece of wire. So do you consider that to be valuable? So then again devotees unanimously, they all said, "No, Prabhupada." So then Prabhupada continued and he said, further you start walking and you find a gourd on the street. Gourd, Gourd, it is a kind of a fruit, but that cannot be eaten. So it is hard from the external side and it is soft inside, but that cannot be eaten as a fruit. And so it is generally used as a kind of a vessel or a container because of its hard shell. So it is used like a container or a shell. So Prabhupada asked, and further when you walk, do you consider, if you find a gourd, do you consider that to be valuable? Then devotees once again reiterated, "No, we don't consider that to be valuable." So then Prabhupada concludes this series of questioning by saying, "But an intelligent man will pick up the wire, stick and the gourd, and he will fix that stick on the gourd and attach the wire to the stick and convert that into a musical instrument. And that is what I have done to all of you." So individually, we are all not anyway better than a piece of stick, wire or a gourd. From the spiritual perspective, we could be whatsoever in our mainstream life, but when it comes to spirituality from the perspective of the Lord and the Acharyas, so we are nothing. But then it is the intelligent man like Srila Prabhupada who has picked us up and converted into a musical instrument so as to emanate music. So in other words, devotional service from us. So that itself is a biggest wonder. So Prabhupada in this analogy, in this pastime, he is making it very clear to all of us that we are not worthy of being servants of the Supreme Lord Hari. So that is very, very far from even thinking of that. So but then because of his causeless mercy, so today we are able to chant the names of the Lord, read Bhagavatam, worship the deities, honor Prasadam. So all this is possible because of an intelligent person and the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So as per the understanding of the philosophy of Bhagavata, more than we are eager to purify ourselves from all these anarthas, more than we are eager to go back to Godhead, the Lord is eager to reclaim us, all of us back to home, back to Godhead. Because He is a merciful Father, just like even in the world we can see a father, he is very compassionate to his sons. The sons may be rebellious, So may not be willing to abide by the directions of the father, but then father will never be wanting to let go of his sons. So he will be wanting to always want his sons to come back to him. So similarly, the Supreme Lord, he is always more eager than any of us wanting to purify, wanting to go back to Godhead, etc. So then we may ask this question, so if that is the case, then why I am still in this world? So why am I not getting purified? So you see, one thing is the Lord wanting to take us. So the Lord, He can use His force and take us back to Godhead also, but then that will not last long, because then it is no voluntarily we have not decided to be that. So Lord wants us to voluntarily also submit to Him, surrender to Him, that we are interested in taking your shelter, taking your direction. So the Lord is expecting us to be proactive, to take that very first step of surrender. Otherwise, why do you think Krishna, after giving his directions in Bhagavad Gita 5000 years ago, so he could have said, yeah, I have done my duty, I have told. So sarva dharman parityaja, I have explained the formula. So I have told, ye yatha mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyam. So I have given all the principles in Bhagavad Gita. So what more to be done? So but then the Supreme Lord again came down as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 500 years ago to teach the science of devotional service, the science of surrender. Krishna told you surrender, but then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu demonstrated the surrender, how to surrender. And further, it did not end there. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent his Senapati Bhakta, Srila Prabhupada, and he gave this organization called ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, for us to practice surrender. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained the science of surrender, but then again, we were not so fortunate to apply that in our practical day-to-day lives. So individually we were all weak. So Srila Prabhupada gave this movement a form of an institution where we could come together and practice that surrender, practice that science of devotion. So in that way, the Lord has been always wanting for us to purify and then go back to Godhead. So we can experience that same reciprocation between the Lord and His pure devotees, provided we also surrender. And Prabhupada explains in his different books and lectures what are the different meanings of surrender. So like for example, one thing Prabhupada says, surrender means full faith that Krishna will always protect me. So we should have full faith, not half faith. Just like for example, take Prahlad Maharaj. So he was believing in the protection of the Lord. He had firm conviction that Lord will take care of his devotees. So that conviction did not change even when he encountered the most of the difficult situations, like being thrown off a cliff, being administered the most deadly poison, being trampled by elephants. He never gave up his faith. So the faith that Krishna will protect us should always be very strong in the devotees. That is one symptom of surrender. Prabhupada also says surrender means believe in Krishna's words. So that means when Krishna says that mat chitta sarva durgani mat prasada tarishyasi, so we should believe in these words, in those words of Krishna. When Krishna says sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja, so we should believe that yes, if I surrender to Krishna, He will give me full protection. Then Prabhupada also explains that surrender means he's finished all his material business. So that means it is not that, okay, I will surrender now because things are okay, but I will also maintain something else, because in case, if Krishna's protection fails, then I have a backup plan. So plan B. No, plan B, C don't work. So only Krishna, our surrender means full meaning only when we have only one plan, and that plan is the lotus feet of the Lord. So that is why Shastra says, Anyabhilashita shunyam. No other desire other than the Lord's mercy. And surrender means in any condition. So these are all different explanations that Prabhupada has given in different places, in his books, in his lectures, in his conversations, etc. So Prabhupada says surrender means in any condition we remain surrendered. So again it is more or less the previous thing, that it is not that when things are favorable I will surrender, and when things are not favorable then I will try something else. No. So in the Kunti Maharani's prayer she prays Vishan Mahagne Purushada Darshana. That means when there was Maha-Agni, when there was an attempt to administer poison to the Pandavas, in all of those cases the Pandavas were completely surrendered unto the will of the Lord. So it was not that only when things were favorable they were surrendering to the Lord. And then Prabhupada also explains, surrender means you surrender and work as Krishna says. So that means not the way we wish to surrender, but the way Krishna wants us to surrender. Like for example, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. So this is the way to remember Krishna. So then Prabhupada says, surrender means completely to have faith that I have no danger because Krishna is protecting me. And Prabhupada gives an example just like a child. A child, when the father or the parents, they throw the child up in the air, the child is not in anxiety. Oh, what will happen to me? Will I fall down? Will my father hold me? No, the child will be smiling, laughing. So that is because the child has complete faith that Lord will be protecting, Lord will be holding, the father, the child has complete faith that the father, the parent will be holding it up under any condition. So similarly, we as practicing devotees, we can exhibit the same faith like a simple child, so that we should not be under anxiety in any case, in any situation in our lives. And surrender means to accept orders and to strictly abide by it. So Prabhupada says in one of his lectures that we should not just be Dandavat's devotee. So Dandavat devotee means, Dandavats Prabhu, Dandavats, Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna. So then, we are only showing surrender in words but not in action. So we should be also abiding and accepting orders. So that means when an order is given, we should be ready to accept the order. So now what is the meaning of order? So are we expecting the orders from Lord Krishna? So now on behalf of Lord Krishna, his pure devotee representative will give orders. Now the pure devotee representative of Krishna has set up this organization. So and he has set up, this is how you will receive my orders. He has given his books, he has given his instructions. So this is how we receive orders. So it is not that I will follow Krishna's orders, Prabhupada's orders, but I will not follow any things of the temple. So the temple is nothing but a manifestation of Prabhupada's orders. So he has created this, it is nothing but, this temple is nothing but the body of Srila Prabhupada. So when we abide by the orders of the temple, then it also means that we are obliging by the orders of Prabhupada, and in other words, Krishna's order. Surrender means no hesitation. Prabhupada defines surrender means no hesitation. That means a devotee will never consider that by doing this will I go to hell or heaven. So if you see in the Bhagavatam, it is very nicely explained that how when that pastime of how Krishna gets headache and he requests for the dust of this pure devotees, and when the ministers of Krishna, they go and seek the dust from the Brahmanas, they said, no, we will all go to hell. If I give the dust, he is the Supreme Lord, and if I give the dust of my feet to be applied on Krishna's head, I will go to hell. So, but when they approached gopis said, how much do you want? They scraped every bit of their feet and they would give. Doesn't matter what happens to me. Whether I go to hell or heaven, I want Krishna to be happy. I want Krishna's headache to be relieved. So that is the mood of a devotee. Doesn't matter what will happen to me. So in fact, Prabhupada says, if the devotee is ordered, go to hell and preach Krishna consciousness, devotee will happily accept. Because doesn't matter, as long as I am abiding by the order of my spiritual master, whether it is hell or heaven, that is only to the external world, but for me it is Vaikuntha because I am following the orders of my Guru. And then Prabhupada also says surrender means the mentality that I am not a doer. So that means sometimes when we are doing some kind of a service, and if at all by will of providence we are meeting with good success, great success, we get a sense that I am doing this. And when that kind of an arrogance or aggression sets in, then it will always be opposite to surrender. Surrender means the mentality that I am not the doer, but Krishna is the doer, but I am just an instrument. I am only an instrument, I am only a via means for the Lord to execute His divine will. So we should never look for credit or take credit. One is taking credit, the other thing is even looking for credit, looking for appreciation, looking for acknowledgement. So not required. So we have to silently do the service, and then it is with a complete understanding that Krishna is the doer. And surrender means no reservation. So reservation means, it's like Prabhupada explains, that full renunciation. Not that I'll keep some things for myself and some things I will do. So some things I will work as per my whims, and some things I will follow Krishna's direction in Bhagavad Gita. No. Whatever it is Krishna's. Manasa deha jo kichu mora. So whatever my body, my mind, everything is Krishna's. So this is how surrender in different ways Prabhupada explains. So if we are able to practice all of these different types of surrender, then that is the way we can experience a greater reciprocation from the Lord. Because, so the Lord's formula is very clear. As we purify ourselves, we can experience more and more divine miracles, reciprocation from the Lord. And Prabhupada explains one of the practical form of surrender is chanting the names of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is one of the practical forms of surrender that Prabhupada has taught for the sadhakas in Kali Yuga. So this is the most easiest form of surrender also. So then it is also told that how one, if chanting in unalloyed pure devotion can achieve Krishna Prema, we have all been hearing in different forums. But then there is one secret, because sometimes we feel we have been hearing about the importance of chanting the names of the Lord, have been for many years, but then somehow I am not developing the taste for chanting. So why is that? So when Prabhupada explains in one purport in Bhagavatam, developing taste for chanting and hearing the holy names. Now that is at least we as devotees, if we have been coming and hearing Bhagavatam and associated with this temple for a few months or years, we all know that if we are able to chant purely, then that is the perfection of this life. So now Prabhupada, he is here in giving this formula or a secret that how that is possible. So Prabhupada says, developing taste for chanting and hearing the holy names is possible only. See, he is using the word only. So it's a very important point. Only through the medium of service to the pure devotee of the Lord. So Prabhupada is connecting. So till now we heard how by surrender we can experience the reciprocation of the Lord. And the practical form of surrender is chanting the holy names of the Lord. And how we can chant the holy names of the Lord purely? Prabhupada is here giving the secret by rendering service unto the pure devotee of the Lord. See, that's how, this is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. So sometimes we feel, no, chanting is just enough for me. Yeah, chanting is just enough. That is true. There is no contradiction in that. All the Shastras say, just by chanting, especially in this age of Kali, you can go back to Godhead. But chanting purely, chanting offenselessly, so that will be possible when we render service unto the pure devotee of the Lord. So this is the secret. So therefore, service is not anyway less. By more and more doing service, we will awaken that dormant love for chanting the names of God. Because right now we are not able to, in fact, even think mentally that how Rupa Goswami could say that I am not satisfied with 1 tongue and 2 ears, give me thousands of tongues and millions of ears. We are not able to, because we will be seeing the Sakshi Mala, how many rounds is over. That is our current state. Sometimes even within a round we will be opening the Mala and seeing how much more is left in the current round. So this is the practical reality. So we are waiting, and of course, initially, yes, definitely it is, we have to take pleasure in completing the 16 rounds. I am not denying that. But then you see, the benchmark is the Rupa Goswami's feeling that when that one tongue is not enough, I want more, I want to go on incessantly chanting. So that's the benchmark for devotees. So right now we are here, that is fine. So from this place to that place, the path can be traversed by this secret formula, which is rendering service unto the pure devotee of the Lord. So now we may say, yes Prabhu, we are all rendering service. I come whenever I get opportunity on weekends because I have some duties, responsibilities. So yeah, that is okay. The number of hours is not really a matter. So Krishna is also Bhavagrahi Janardana, so he knows what situation we all are in. So he accepts the service of the Lord. But then in this verse, there is another point that Prabhupada stresses, how to do service. So Prabhupada explains, the Pandavas were so malleable to the will of the Lord that they could do anything for the service of the Lord, and such determination could make them recipients of Lord's mercy. So in other words, for reciprocation of the Lord, we have to surrender. For surrender, we have to chant the names of the Lord, holy names of the Lord, and for chanting, we have to render that service. And that service should be rendered in a malleable way. So what is the meaning of malleable? So the dictionary meaning, it says the nature which could allow itself to be drawn into any shape, etc. So that's a technical definition used more in the sense of a metallurgy and metals. So but how is that applicable to this verse, and what is Prabhupada saying that we should be malleable in the service, malleable to the will of the Lord? So malleable also means adaptable, flexible. So or the opposite of malleable is stubborn. So stubborn means sometimes, although we are sadhakas, we are devotees, we want to do service in the way that I feel it is correct. So that is nothing but little bit, it is definitely million times better than the mainstream materialist karmis who are not willing to submit to the supremacy of the Lord. We as devotees have surpassed that by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. But then having come to this stage of accepting devotional service, accepting Krishna as the Supreme Personality of God, don't think it is something smaller. For to come to this point of accepting that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Shastra says that we have surpassed millions of years of hard work of many other karmis. Of course, now the point is whether it is our previous work or the mercy of a pure devotee like Prabhupada, that's a different thing. But then the fact is we have crossed all those stages and come here. Now having come here, we should not get stuck at this point by being stubborn, by being fixed in our views in devotional service. We have to be malleable. So we have to be flexible to the will of the Lord. Now again, being malleable to the will of the Lord means being malleable or adaptable to the will of His representative. Now being malleable to the will of His representative means His institution. So practically that is what it is meaning to. So we cannot have an impression that now I will all do devotional service independently. I don't want any institution support, I don't want anything. After I go to Krishna anyway, I will be with all the pure devotees. No, this is the training ground. So Krishna, before admitting us into His world, which is filled with pure devotees, He is giving us an opportunity in this world to become pure by interacting, by taking advantage of the other devotee association. So we have to take advantage of this. We have to learn how to interact with other devotees in this world. So you will find devotees who are okay, who are not okay, who are new, who are old, who are experienced. So we will find all kinds of devotees because all of us have our own baggage of anarthas. But then how we overcome them, how we become oblivious to the external things of other devotees and take the good in every devotee, that is with us. That is left with us. So we have to be malleable to the will of the Lord and His representative and His institution. So then we can expect to taste the names of the Lord someday in future. It so happened once that Prabhupada, we all know how he is very compassionate in converting all the hippies into happies. So in those days of he going to the West. So it so happened this particular Leela in 1969, so the institution and the organization was just spreading across different countries. So one devotee who was very much qualified, and that devotee, he was also one of the editors in the Teachings of Lord Chaitanya book that Srila Prabhupada wrote, and he was also editing the Back to Godhead magazine, and so he was a very philosophically empowered personality. He could answer all the questions of the hippies on behalf of Prabhupada. So he was quite an intellectual and all that, but for some reason he happened to discontinue his service. So he left the movement in the year 1969, although he was thickly associated with Prabhupada between the years 66 and 69. So 69 he somehow disassociated with the movement, and once again after about 2 years or so, in 1971, he happened to come in touch with Prabhupada and his organization, and he felt he had a desire to rejoin the movement. So he writes a letter to Srila Prabhupada that Prabhupada, the long and short, he had written about 2 paragraphs, I am just telling you the gist. So that he expressed his desire that Prabhupada, I want to come and rejoin this movement, I want to start rendering the service again. So then Prabhupada, he first of all appreciates that desire of this devotee, desire of joining back the movement. He also welcomes him, and he also acknowledges his earlier contribution to the editorials, and he appreciates his intellectual abilities in editing, in presentation. He does all these things, but then and he also says, I welcome you back, I am so eager, I am so happy that you are wanting to come back. So you can come back provided you are ready to surrender, provided you are ready to follow the directions. He says, and he gives few examples what he means by that. He says, provided you are ready to wear the dress of a devotee, wear the tilak, kanti, chant 16 rounds, follow 4 regulative principles. So provided you are agreeing to abide all these things, you are most welcome. But not with your independence. He writes it clearly. So you are welcome to join, but not being independent. So in other words, Prabhupada is indicating to us a simple principle that in the service of the Lord, it is very important to be obedient, to be malleable, to be flexible. Our understanding of logic, rational, we should keep it aside. So we should go by the directions given to us by the senior devotees. So by the will of the Lord, which is manifested through His pure devotee, through His books. So Prabhupada has given us so many lectures, conversations. So it is very clear, it's amply clear. There is no necessity for us to speculate whether this is the will of the Lord or that is the will. No, it is very clear. So when we adopt this kind of a malleable approach and give up our independent nature, so then Prabhupada is more than welcoming us to give all his blessings and mercy, and so also is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. So we shall end the session here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Tai Gaur Premanande.